Hey, what's up guys? This is Matthew Boyle. Welcome back to this channel where we're talking about what it's like to teach at the university level in China. I have some exciting news to start with. Over the past year, I had a slight role change. I actually became a director at a college, and I had the pleasure of interviewing, I would say, close to 50 people over the past year and taking notes all the while to improve myself and also to help you improve how you can do an interview. And I'm calling this video today 10 Tactics for the Greatest Interview of Your Life, because I think it can not only help you get into more competitive universities in China where you might want to teach, but also just in general. Now, before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe so you and other like-minded people can find your way back to my content. And also, I recommend you take some notes. Take out a paper and pencil, jot some of these things down. If you will try just a few of these ideas that I'm about to offer, I really think it can lift your game. Because most of the people that I've interviewed are very good candidates, but I've noticed there's just a few simple things that some people will do that give them that little bit of an edge over the others and distinguish themselves from the pack. So I think if you just try, if you are able to employ just a few of these things, it will help you out a lot. All right, without further ado, let's jump in. And we're just going to start and go through this as things would normally progress through the different stages of an interview. The first one is be professional from the very start. What surprises me sometimes is when people make first contact to the place that they're applying to, they kind of send a more informal, off the top of their head message, and it might include some questions they have or their interest for the position, but it's not very professionally put together. And I think people sometimes may forget that many people may be seeing your first message to the university. In fact, you really don't know who's going to see that when you're first applying. It might not just be the person who posted the ad. So keep in mind, you're already forming people's first impressions of you with the very first email that you send, and that email might be getting shared around to others. Number 2, make sure that you send, of course, everything that's asked for in the job post, but also make sure to send up-to-date resumes and up-to-date recommendation letters. If you haven't sent all of those things, it can sometimes immediately put you back into the queue behind other people, and you may lose time. Because one thing I will simply say to people who are applying, if they haven't sent all the necessary documents, or if resumes are missing, like the past half year, what have you done the past half year, or if recommendation letters are years old, I might just say, I'm happy to interview you, but you need to have all these things first, and then that's going to delay your application process. So make sure to send up-to-date resumes and recommendation letters. Number 3, I'm calling number 3, answer the questions, set the time. Now, what do I mean by this? After people apply, I typically send a letter back to them, and what I want to do is set up a time to talk with them, and I also want them to connect with me on, say, Skype or WeChat, which is very popular in China. And what surprises me is that people often reply very simply, and they say something like, "Great, I'm very excited for the interview," or "Great, I'm looking forward to the interview," or "That sounds good." And they didn't answer the questions. They didn't answer what time they're available, or they didn't pick a time that I suggested and confirm it, or they didn't say that I've connected with you on Skype or something like that. So it adds an extra step to the equation. I then have to reach back out to these people and try to pin down a time with them. And sometimes it can even go further than that, and there will be a second email and then a third email. and it just drags on, and it really surprises me. Whereas the most efficient applicants, they will reply back and they'll say, yes, let's do 10 p.m. Beijing Standard Time this Thursday night. I can do that, and I've already connected with you on Skype. Talk to you then. That's something that everybody has the capacity to do, and it will set you apart if you can do that. Okay. Number 4, well, this kind of ties into the last one. Number 4 is to link up right away. What I've noticed is that a lot of candidates won't connect with me on Skype or WeChat or whatever else until just a few minutes before the interview time. And that obviously, sometimes that can lead to problems. Sometimes the connections don't happen smoothly at that moment, and then we're late going into the interview, or we're trying to figure out how to connect with each other. That is not good. So I learned quickly that if people haven't connected with me days before, right after those initial few emails, then I should probably just go ahead and do it myself. But again, to put your best foot forward, connect as soon as possible. And then, number 5, send a note that you're looking forward to the interview. Stay front of mind is the way that I put it. After you've confirmed that interview time, the 5th tip that I have for you is to, well, number 4 is to link up right away. Don't let the grass grow under your feet. And then the 5th tip is maybe at that middle point between the email where you set up the interview time and the interview time, maybe at that halfway point, send an email just to stay in the front of their mind and say, hey, I'm looking forward to that interview time, blah, blah, blah. I've cleared away my schedule. I'm good for that time. I'm looking forward to it. And I've been looking up so many interesting things about your school. These are the little things that will really distinguish you and set you apart. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this video so far. Before I go to the final 5 tactics that I have for you, I just want to remind you, take a moment to like this video, take a moment to subscribe to this video so you can support what I do. And I also want to mention to you that most of my online work these days is at languagecardgames.com. I actually am a game designer, and I like to make games to help people learn languages. And if you've benefited from this video series I've been making about teaching at the university level in China, it would really just make my day if you could visit languagecardgames.com and check out what I'm doing there. Actually, there's a lot of teachers in China and other countries using my games to help their students learn languages. And I would specifically recommend one to you called Language Guardians. It's very simple. It's like Uno or Crazy Eights, and it can help people play to learn their target language. Again, that's at languagecardgames.com. Okay, now let's press on. The 6th tip I have for you is to treat video interviews the same as you would an in-person interview. What surprises me is that video camera will often click on, and it seems like people were not expecting they had an interview today. Sometimes people are in the strangest of locations, outside in parking lots, under streetlights, or it looks like they're in their bedroom and their bedroom is messy. Sometimes you see things that you don't expect to see behind people, like there's clothes hanging or books or an old sofa or something like that. Sometimes the camera is the camera sometimes is not level, or they're not centered in the camera, or they're not dressed professionally for the interview. They just have an old t-shirt. And guys, this is just giving you a very bad impression if you do that. So level the camera. Try to do what I do, which is just find a bare wall somewhere around. So you just have a plain wall behind you. Not a lot of distractions. Sometimes people do these interviews in coffee shops or whatever. I get that people are doing work in the coffee shops and they might interview there sometimes, but there's distracting things happening in the background. Sometimes people are walking behind them. take away all the distractions. Let the person be focusing on you and your professional dress. And yeah, just take that into account. If as much as possible, just have a professional look about you. Find a place where you can do this. If it's not possible to get that done in your home, find a decent place ahead of time. All right, number 7. Number 7 is ask questions. Show your curiosity. What surprises me is that after I ask an applicant a lot of questions about themselves and their life and share with them a lot about our school and our program, they have very few or no questions for me. And I take that as a bad sign. I take that as a person who has no curiosity, no interest, someone who doesn't want to learn more, who doesn't want to grow more. Now, it could be that these people don't want to trouble me. Maybe they don't want to take too much of my time. Maybe they've learned a lot about the school from other sources. But I recommend you ask interesting questions, ask challenging questions. Because again, we're looking for, the interviewers are looking for people who are going to do that on the job. Ask interesting questions of their coworkers and students and really form those conversations where everybody has something to gain, and just stay interesting and positive at the workplace. So, and one question I want to offer to you that I would typically ask when I was interviewing at schools to be a teacher there, one question that I typically like to ask is, in your perspective or in your opinion, what is the greatest challenge that your school or program is facing at the current time? And then that can really give you an insight into the problems that the school is having. And then you can follow up with, when they're answering that question, you can be thinking of how you can help them to meet that challenge or solve that problem. And then after they answer that, you can say, well, I actually really think I can help you with that because A, B, C, D. See? All right, don't forget to ask questions that show your curiosity and your interest. Number 8 kind of ties into that, and that is lead with what you can give, not with what you can get, or hope to get, or expect to get. What surprises me is that if someone has a question, it's typically about how much of a salary they can get, how high of a salary they can get, or what kind of benefits they can get. And that might be their only question. Or they might lead with that question in emails and interviews. Bad sign. Bad sign. I take it as a red flag. If there's a teacher applying to our school and our program, and the first thing that's on their mind is how much money they can get, I see them as a taker. I don't see them as a giver. You want to be seen as someone who can contribute, someone who can give. And I'm someone who believes that the money you're going to make is tied to how much value you can bring to the organization. So, always share what you hope to bring to the university first. Share your talents, share your skills, share how you can solve the problems and challenges that university is having, and then maybe leave it at that. Later, in follow-up emails, you can, or later in the interview is okay too, but later, after you've shown clearly what you can give, what you can bring to the table, and shown your enthusiasm, then you can segue into asking what you can hope to receive back from the school. And obviously a great school should be looking out for their teachers and their applicants and should have stuff to offer. It's just a matter of the impression. What do you lead with? This is critical. Okay, after the interview is over, I have a piece of advice for you. This is advice number 9, and that is follow up. Again, stay front of mind. A lot of people after the interview, you don't hear from them ever again, or they expect you to reach back out to them. This is another place where you can set yourself apart. A few days, maybe even some people have even done it same day, which is amazing. But I think same day or next day is fine. Send a follow-up email just to thank the interviewer for their time. Say that you really enjoyed it. Say that you're looking forward to the next steps. It's that simple. Okay, and the last tip I have for you, number 10. No matter what happens, no matter whether you're chosen for the job or not, don't burn your bridges. Use every interview you have as a time to build your connections. You know, it's a really small world out there, I have found, teaching English in China, actually. And people know, people tend to know each other across different schools and organizations. Recruiters tend to know each other and chat. I've stayed in touch with recruiters from many years ago, and sometimes we know these teachers who are applying, and we can actually talk to each other about that person's past experiences in China and where they stand. And I also believe that if things don't work out this time, it's very possible they could work out next year or next year. Or maybe we have a friend that we can recommend or help out. So always see these interviews as a time that you can build your connections. It's always valuable if you conduct a great interview, if you have a great interview, if you leave a lasting impression, that is always something that's creating value for you and for the other party. And you can always stay in touch afterwards through LinkedIn, through WeChat, through Skype, through email, and you can never tell when that's going to pay off for you a little bit further on down the road. All right, these are my 10 tips. Now, going forward, I sincerely wish you luck with any interview that you have coming up. If you have any questions about how to up your interview game, be sure to leave them down below. And once again, please remember to like and subscribe to this channel because I'll be making more videos about what it's like to teach at China's universities in the future. Alright, that's it for this one. Thank you so much, and I'll see you back here next time.